The grandfather clock in the Martinez family's living room struck 9:30 as 3-year-old Lily carefully arranged her stuffed animals for their nightly tea party. Her parents, Elena and Miguel, had kissed her goodnight an hour earlier before leaving for their first anniversary dinner in years. Mrs. Henderson, their elderly neighbor, had volunteered to babysit, but had dozed off in the recliner while watching her evening soap opera. Lily's small fingers worked diligently, positioning Mr. Bunny next to Princess Bear, when the first crash shattered the peaceful evening silence. The sound came from downstairs, violent, aggressive, like someone throwing furniture across the room. The little girl froze, her heart hammering against her tiny chest. Another crash followed, then another, accompanied by the distinct sound of glass breaking. Mrs. Henderson's television continued playing its dramatic music, masking the chaos below. The elderly woman remained fast asleep, her gentle snores mixing with the artificial laughter from her show. Lily clutched her favorite teddy bear, Coco, and tiptoed to her bedroom door. Her bare feet made no sound on the hardwood floor as she pressed her ear against the cool wood. Heavy footsteps pounded across the kitchen tiles below. A deep male voice cursed loudly, followed by the sound of drawers being yanked open and slammed shut. Cabinet doors banged repeatedly. Lily had never heard such angry sounds in her safe, loving home. The voice grew clearer as the intruder moved closer to the staircase. "Where is it?" "Has to be here somewhere," the man muttered, his words slurred slightly. The distinct drag-thump pattern of his footsteps revealed a pronounced limp. "Tommy said they keep cash in a safe." "Gotta be upstairs." Terror flooded Lily's small body as she realized the scary man was coming toward her room. Moving with the instinctive silence of a frightened child, she dove under her princess-themed bed, pulling Coco tight against her chest. The space beneath the bed frame was narrow, but perfect for hiding a 3-year-old. Through the 2-inch gap between her bedroom door and the hardwood floor, she had a clear view of the hallway. The intruder's shadow appeared first, stretching across the pink hallway carpet like a dark omen. His boots were large and worn, caked with mud that left dirty prints on her mother's clean floors. The drag-thump sound grew louder as he limped down the hallway, checking each room systematically. Lily bit her lip to keep from whimpering, tasting the metallic flavor of her own fear. When he pushed open her bedroom door, Lily got her first full look at the man who would haunt her dreams. He wore a black ski mask that covered most of his face, but she could see his eyes, cold, angry eyes that swept across her room with predatory focus. His dark blue jacket was torn at the shoulder, and his jeans were dirty. Most distinctive was the way he favored his left leg, barely putting weight on it as he moved. The masked man limped to her dresser first, yanking out drawers and dumping her carefully folded clothes onto the floor. Her favorite purple dress with the butterfly buttons landed in a heap. He moved to her closet next, pushing aside her tiny dresses and searching behind them with growing frustration. "Nothing up here either," he growled, pulling out a cell phone with a cracked screen. "Yeah, it's me. This place is a bust. These people are broke, or they're better at hiding stuff than I thought." He paused, listening to whoever was on the other end. "What do you mean? Check the kids' room again." "I'm in it now. Just toys and princess junk." Lily's breath caught in her throat. The man was standing directly above her hiding spot, so close she could smell cigarettes and something sharp and chemical on his clothes. She squeezed her eyes shut and pressed Coco over her mouth to muffle any sound. The conversation continued. "Nah, the old lady downstairs is still snoring. Kid must be a heavy sleeper too. Haven't heard a peep." He laughed, a sound that made Lily's skin crawl. "Look, I'm getting out of here. This limp is killing me, and we got those other 2 houses on Maple Street lined up for tomorrow. Those families actually look like they got money." As he prepared to leave, The intruder knocked over Lily's piggy bank on the nightstand. Coins scattered across the floor. Rolling under the bed, where several came to rest near her face. A quarter settled inches from her nose, reflecting the hallway light. She didn't dare move to brush it away. "Even the kids broke," the man muttered, pocketing a few dollar bills from the broken piggy bank. His phone buzzed with a text message. Yeah, I'm coming. Tell Danny to have the car running. This neighborhood's a waste of time." The dragged thump of his footsteps retreated down the hallway. Lily heard him descend the stairs, knock over what sounded like her mother's favorite lamp, and finally slam the front door so hard the whole house seemed to shake. A car engine roared to life outside, tires screeching as the vehicle sped away. But Lily remained frozen under the bed, clutching Coco and staring at the chaos of her destroyed room. She had witnessed something terrible, something that her 3-year-old mind couldn't fully process, but instinctively knew was dangerous. The man's angry eyes, his distinctive limp, his phone conversation about other houses, all of it burned into her memory with the clarity that only trauma can create. When Elena and Miguel returned from their anniversary dinner at 11 o'clock, they found their front door ajar and their home in shambles. Mrs. Henderson was awake and frantic, having discovered the break-in only minutes before their return. They found Lily exactly where she had hidden, still under the bed, still clutching Coco, her eyes wide and unblinking. From that moment, she never spoke another word about what she had seen. But in her young mind, every detail remained perfectly preserved, waiting for the right moment and the right listener to finally emerge. She had no way of knowing that her silence would nearly let a dangerous criminal escape justice, or that her eventual testimony would change the legal system forever. Detective Maria Santos arrived at the Martinez home within 15 minutes of their 911 call, beginning an investigation that would challenge everything she thought she knew about child witnesses, police work, and the power of unlikely partnerships between humans and animals. The morning sun streamed through the Martinez family's kitchen window, but the cheerful yellow light did nothing to dispel the heavy atmosphere that had settled over their home like a dark cloud. 3 days had passed since the break-in, and Lily sat at her usual spot at the breakfast table, methodically moving pieces of pancake around her plate without taking a single bite. Her parents, Elena and Miguel, exchanged worried glances over their untouched coffee cups. "Mia, please try to eat something," Elena whispered, her voice thick with exhaustion. She had taken time off from her job at the hospital to stay home with Lily, but her daughter seemed to be slipping further away with each passing hour. The vibrant, chattering 3-year-old who used to fill their home with laughter and endless questions had vanished completely, replaced by a silent shadow of her former self. Miguel reached across the table and gently touched Lily's small hand. Before the incident, this simple gesture would have prompted a stream of toddler chatter about her dreams, her toys, or her plans for the day. Now, Lily simply stared at his hand without acknowledgement, her dark eyes distant and unfocused. The only sound in the kitchen was the steady tick of the wall clock that had somehow survived the intruder's rampage. Detective Maria Santos had been working child advocacy cases for over 12 years, but she had never encountered a witness quite like Lily Martinez. The seasoned investigator sat in the family's living room, surrounded by the aftermath of the break-in that Elena and Miguel couldn't bear to clean up yet. Overturned furniture, scattered photographs, and broken ornaments served as constant reminders of that terrible night. "I've tried every technique in my training manual," Detective Santos explained to the worried parents during her third visit. Traditional interview methods, play therapy approaches, even letting her draw pictures instead of talking. But Lily won't engage with any of it. "She looks right through me like I'm not even here." The detective's frustration was evident in her voice. She had worked with traumatized children before, victims of abuse, witnesses to domestic violence, kids who had seen terrible things. but most eventually opened up, even if it took time and patience. Lily's complete withdrawal was unlike anything in her experience. Elena wiped tears from her eyes. She used to talk constantly. From the moment she woke up until bedtime, she was always chattering about something. She would tell us elaborate stories about her stuffed animals, ask a million questions about everything she saw. Now, ... Her voice broke. Now she won't even say mama or papa. The psychological impact extended beyond just silence. Lily had developed a series of concerning behaviors that worried everyone around her. She refused to sleep in her own room, instead curling up on a small mattress on her parents' bedroom floor. Any sudden noise, a door slamming, a car backfiring, even the microwave beeping, would send her scrambling under the nearest table or behind furniture. She clung to Coco, her teddy bear, with white-knuckled intensity, never letting him out of her sight. Dr. Rachel Kim arrived at the Martinez home on a Wednesday afternoon, carrying a soft leather bag filled with specialized toys and assessment tools. As the county's leading child psychologist and trauma specialist, she had been specifically requested by Detective Santos. Dr. Kim had helped numerous young witnesses process traumatic experiences and eventually provide crucial testimony in criminal cases. The selective mutism that Lily is displaying is actually quite common in children who have experienced severe trauma, Dr. Kim explained to the family during their initial consultation. Her brain is essentially protecting her from re-experiencing the terror by shutting down the communication pathways associated with the traumatic memory. She settled on the living room floor, her movements deliberately slow and non-threatening. Lily remained pressed against her mother's side on the couch, watching the psychologist with wary eyes. Dr. Kim pulled out a set of colorful dolls and began creating a simple scene with them, narrating her actions in a soft, soothing voice. Sometimes when scary things happen to us, our minds need time to feel safe again before we can talk about what we saw. Dr. Kim continued, directing her words toward Lily while appearing to focus on the dolls. That's perfectly normal and okay. There's no rush. But after 2 weeks of regular sessions, even Dr. Kim's expertise seemed insufficient to breach the wall that Lily had built around herself. The child would occasionally show fleeting interest in specific toys or activities, but any attempt to direct the play toward the night of the break-in would cause her to shut down completely, sometimes retreating to hide behind furniture until the session ended. Meanwhile, the investigation into what the media had dubbed the Limping Bandit case was reaching a critical juncture. Detective Santos had connected the Martinez break-in to a string of similar crimes throughout the Dallas metropolitan area. The perpetrator's distinctive method of operation targeting homes with young children during evening hours, his obvious physical disability, and his apparent familiarity with the victim's schedules suggested this was an organized criminal with local connections. We've had 3 more break-ins this week alone, Detective Santos reported during a tense meeting with District Attorney Carmen Rodriguez. Same MO, same physical description from adult witnesses who caught glimpses of him. But none of them got as clear a look as Lily did. She's our best shot at a positive identification. The pressure was mounting from multiple directions. The affected neighborhood was in panic mode, with families installing expensive security systems and some even considering moving away. Local news stations ran nightly reports about the crime spree, keeping the community on edge. City officials were demanding results, and the police department's resources were stretched thin with increased patrols and investigation efforts. What about hypnosis? Suggested Officer James Wilson during a strategy meeting. I've heard of cases where it helped recover suppressed memories. Dr. Kim shook her head firmly. Absolutely not. Lily is 3 years old. Her brain is still developing, and hypnosis could create false memories or cause additional trauma. We need to respect her psychological boundaries while finding alternative ways to help her feel safe enough to communicate. As The days stretched into weeks. Everyone involved in the case began to feel the weight of mounting frustration. Detective Santos worked late into the night, following up on leads that led nowhere and interviewing witnesses who provided vague, contradictory descriptions. The criminal seemed to vanish like smoke after each break-in, leaving behind only broken homes and terrified families. Elena and Miguel watched their daughter's regression with growing alarm. Lily had stopped playing with most of her toys, showed little interest in her favorite books, and even rejected the comfort foods she had always loved. She would spend hours sitting by the living room window, staring out at the street with an expression of watchful anxiety that broke her parents' hearts. The family's life had been completely disrupted. Miguel had to take intermittent leave from his construction job to help with Lily's care, straining their finances. Elena found herself jumping at every sound, unable to focus on anything except protecting her daughter. Their marriage, usually strong and supportive, began showing signs of stress as they struggled to cope with the situation. "Maybe we should consider relocating," Miguel suggested one evening as they watched Lily arrange her stuffed animals in defensive formations around her play area. "Start fresh somewhere else, away from all these memories." Elena shook her head. "Running away won't solve this. And besides, that monster is still out there hurting other families." Lily saw something important. "I know she did. We can't give up." Dr. Kim scheduled increasingly creative sessions, bringing in art supplies, music therapy tools, and even puppet shows designed to create non-threatening ways for Lily to express herself. But the little girl remained locked in her protective silence, holding the key to justice in her traumatized mind, while everyone around her searched desperately for a way to help her unlock it. The breakthrough they all needed was still weeks away, hidden in the most unexpected form of an unlikely partnership that would change everything they thought they knew about communication, healing, and the remarkable resilience of the human spirit. The morning of October 15th started like any other at Sunshine Daycare Center, where Lily had been attending part-time sessions as part of Dr. Kim's socialization therapy. The cheerful yellow building on Elm Street buzzed with the usual chaos of 23 preschoolers engaged in their daily activities. Finger painting stations were set up in one corner, building blocks scattered across another, and a reading nook filled with children listening to story time. Lily sat alone at a small table near the window, methodically arranging colored blocks in precise rows, while other children played loudly around her. She had been attending daycare for 2 weeks now, but remained completely isolated from her peers. The other 3-year-olds had initially tried to include her in their games, but Lily's unresponsive silence eventually led them to treat her like a piece of furniture present, but irrelevant to their WORD. Mrs. Patterson, the head teacher, watched Lily with growing concern. "She's like a little ghost," she confided to her assistant, Miss Jennifer. "She follows the routine perfectly, eats her snacks, goes to the bathroom when scheduled, but it's like she's not really here. The other children don't even see her anymore." At exactly 10:30 a.m., the daycare's weekly Community Helpers program was scheduled to begin. This month's theme focused on police officers and firefighters, designed to help children feel safe and protected by the uniformed heroes in their community. Mrs. Patterson had specifically requested this program, hoping it might somehow reach Lily, though she had little optimism after witnessing the child's complete withdrawal from previous activities. Officer Jake Reeves pulled into the daycare parking lot in his marked patrol car, the October sun glinting off its polished surface. In the passenger area of the specially modified vehicle, his 4-year-old German Shepherd partner, Duke, sat at attention. Duke was a magnificent specimen, 85 pounds of perfectly trained muscle and intelligence, with traditional black and tan coloring and alert amber eyes that seemed to miss nothing. "All right, boy, we're here to help some little kids learn about staying safe," Officer Reeves said. scratching Duke behind the ears. "Remember, this is a friendly visit. No demonstrations today, just meet and greet." Duke's tail wagged once in acknowledgement. He had participated in dozens of school visits over his 3 years of service with the Dallas Police Department. Children typically responded to him with squeals of delight, eager to pet his thick coat and ask endless questions about police work. These visits were among Officer Reeves' favorite duties, a welcome break from the more serious aspects of K-9 patrol work. The children had been gathered in the main playroom, sitting cross-legged in a semicircle on the colorful alphabet carpet. Their excitement was palpable as Officer Reeves entered in his crisp uniform, but the energy reached fever pitch when Duke padded through the door beside him. 22 children began chattering and bouncing with enthusiasm, their hands shooting into the air with questions before the presentation even began. Lily remained in her corner by the window, still arranging her blocks with mechanical precision. Mrs. Patterson had gently tried to guide her to join the group, but Lily had simply stared through her with those distant eyes, continuing her solitary activity. The teacher decided not to force the issue, having learned that pressure only caused Lily to retreat further. "Good morning, everyone," Officer Reeves called out with practiced enthusiasm. "I'm Officer Jake, and this is my partner, Duke. Can everyone say hello to Duke?" The chorus of "Hello, Duke" was deafening, accompanied by giggles and applause. Duke sat perfectly still in his professional posture, but his tail betrayed his enjoyment of the attention with subtle wagging. For the next 15 minutes, Officer Reeves explained Duke's job in terms the children could understand. Duke demonstrated basic commands: sit, stay, shake hands, while the children watched in amazement. The German Shepherd's intelligence and training impressed even the adults in the room as he performed each task with precision and grace. "Duke helps keep everyone safe," Officer Reeves explained. "He can smell things that people can't smell and hear sounds that are too quiet for us. He's like a superhero dog with special powers." A little boy named Tommy raised his hand eagerly. "Can he really catch bad guys?" "He sure can," Officer Reeves replied. "But Duke only uses his special training when he absolutely has to. Most of the time, he just helps people feel safe and protected." It was during this explanation that something extraordinary happened. Duke's head suddenly turned toward the corner where Lily sat alone with her blocks. His amber eyes fixed on her with laser focus, his ears pricked forward in intense concentration. Officer Reeves noticed the shift in his partner's attention immediately. Duke's entire body language had changed from casual presentation mode to alert assessment. "What is it, boy?" Officer Reeves murmured quietly, following Duke's gaze to the small figure by the window. Duke stood slowly, his movement drawing the attention of all the children. But instead of responding to their excited whispers, the German Shepherd began walking steadily toward Lily's corner. His approach was deliberate, but gentle, his tail at neutral position, his posture non-threatening but purposeful. The room fell, silent as everyone watched the drama unfold. Mrs. Patterson started to intervene, worried that Duke might frighten Lily, but Officer Reeves held up a hand to stop her. His years of working with Duke had taught him to trust his partner's instincts completely. Lily looked up from her blocks for the first time that morning as Duke's shadow fell across her table. The German Shepherd sat down directly in front of her, maintaining eye contact with an intensity that seemed to pierce through her protective barriers. For a moment, child and dog simply stared at each other in complete silence. Then something miraculous happened. Lily's rigid posture began to soften. Her death grip on the blocks loosened. Most remarkably, her eyes, which had been empty and unfocused for weeks, suddenly came alive with recognition and interest. She tilted her head slightly, studying Duke's face with the first genuine curiosity she had shown since the break-in. Duke's tail began to wag slowly. A sign that Officer Reeves had learned meant his partner sensed something important. The dog's training included detecting human stress, fear, and emotional distress skills that made him invaluable in search and rescue operations and victim assistance cases. Without any prompting from the adults, Lily slowly extended her small hand toward Duke. The German Shepherd remained perfectly still as her tiny fingers made contact with his soft ear. At that touch, something seemed to unlock inside the traumatized child. Her face, which had been a mask of emptiness for weeks, suddenly crumpled with emotion. "Nice doggy," she whispered, so quietly that only Duke and Officer Reeves could hear her. They were the first words she had spoken since the night of the break-in. The room remained frozen in stunned silence as Lily leaned forward and pressed her forehead against Duke's massive head. The German Shepherd accepted the contact with infinite patience, his amber eyes never leaving her face. It was as if an invisible bond was forming between them, transcending the normal barriers between human and animal. "He understands," Lily whispered again, her voice stronger this time. "He knows about the scary man." Mrs. Patterson's hand flew to her mouth. Officer Reeves felt his heart rate accelerate as he realized what he might be witnessing. Duke's tail wagged more enthusiastically, responding to some signal that only he could detect in Lily's emotional state. Over the next 10 minutes, while the other children watched in fascination, Lily began having what could only be described as a conversation with Duke. She spoke in the typical mixture of complete sentences and fragmented thoughts common to 3-year-olds, but her words were clear and purposeful. "The scary man had mean eyes," she told Duke, stroking his fur. "He walked funny, like this." She demonstrated a limping motion with her small body. "He broke my piggy bank and said bad words." Duke's responses were subtle, but unmistakable to his trained handler. The dog's ears moved constantly, tracking every sound she made. His body language showed complete focus and attention, the same posture he adopted when receiving important commands during police work. Officer Reeves felt the pieces of a puzzle clicking into place in his mind. He had heard about the limping bandit case from Detective Santos. Every officer in the department had been briefed on the ongoing investigation. Could this silent little girl be the missing witness they had been searching for? As the formal presentation time ended and the children were called to lunch, Lily remained beside Duke, reluctant to break their connection. Officer Reeves knelt down beside them, his mind racing with possibilities. "Lily," he said gently, "Duke really likes talking with you. Would you like to see him again sometime?" For the first time in weeks, Lily smiled, a genuine, bright expression that transformed her entire face. "Yes, please. Duke listens to me. He's not scared of the bad man stories." Officer Reeves exchanged meaningful glances with Mrs. Patterson and Dr. Kim, who had arrived just in time to witness the extraordinary interaction. They all understood they had just witnessed something unprecedented, breakthrough that could change everything about Lily's case and possibly revolutionize how traumatized children were helped to heal and communicate their experiences. Duke seemed to sense the importance of the moment as well. As Officer Reeves prepared to leave, the German Shepherd looked back at Lily one more time, his intelligent eyes conveying a promise that seemed to say, "I'll be back, and I'll keep listening to everything you need to tell me." Dr. Rachel Kim arrived at the Dallas Police Department's Canine Training Facility at precisely 2 p.m. on October 18th, carrying a digital recorder and a folder thick with psychological assessment notes. The facility, located on the outskirts of the city, buzzed with the controlled energy of working dogs and their handlers engaged in daily training exercises. The autumn air carried the sharp scent of fallen leaves, mixed with the distinctive sounds of barking commands and responding canines. Officer Jake Reeves met her at the entrance, Duke padding beside him with his characteristic alert posture. The German Shepherd's amber eyes immediately scanned the area, cataloging every person, vehicle, and potential threat with the systematic precision that made him invaluable in police work. But when Dr. Kim mentioned Lily's name, Duke's ears pricked forward with unmistakable recognition. "I've been thinking about that interaction at the daycare constantly," Dr. Kim confided as they walked toward the indoor training area. "In 15 years of child psychology, I've never witnessed anything quite like what happened between Lily and Duke. The timing, the specificity of her responses, the way she seemed to emerge from her traumatic cocoon, it defied everything I know about selective mutism." Officer Reeves nodded thoughtfully. "Duke's been acting different, too. Usually after school visits, he settles right back into routine patrol work. But ever since Tuesday, he keeps looking toward the daycare whenever we drive past. It's like he's expecting to see her again." The training facility's main room had been specially arranged for their experimental session. Soft mats covered the concrete floor, creating a child-friendly environment within the professional space. Toys were scattered strategically around the area, and not the typical police training equipment, but colorful blocks, stuffed animals, and picture books that Dr. Kim had carefully selected based on Lily's known preferences. When Elena Martinez arrived with Lily 20 minutes later, the transformation in the child was immediately apparent to everyone present. The little girl who had been a hollow shell of herself for weeks was practically vibrating with anticipation. She clutched Coco, her teddy bear, but her grip was relaxed rather than the white-knuckled desperation they had grown accustomed to seeing. "Duke, Duke!" Lily called out the moment she spotted the German Shepherd, her voice clear and strong. It was the first time her parents had heard genuine joy in her tone since the break-in. Elena's eyes filled with tears as she watched her daughter run across the room toward the massive dog with complete trust and zero fear. Duke's response was equally remarkable. The professionally trained police dog, who typically maintains strict discipline and focus during work situations, immediately shifted into what could only be described as gentle companion mode. His tail wagged enthusiastically as Lily approached, and he lowered his large head to her level, presenting himself for the eager hugs she wanted to give him. "Hello, Duke," Lily said seriously, looking directly into the dog's intelligent eyes. "I have more stories to tell you. Important stories about the scary man who came to my house." Dr. Kim activated her digital recorder and settled onto the floor nearby, close enough to observe but far enough away to avoid disrupting the natural flow of communication between child and dog. Officer Reeves positioned himself where he could monitor Duke's responses and body language, his years of partnership allowing him to interpret subtle signals that others might miss. What followed over the next 45 minutes was nothing short of extraordinary. Lily began speaking to Duke in a steady stream of consciousness, her 3-year-old vocabulary mixing sophisticated observations with typical childhood expressions. But every word was clear, purposeful, and remarkably consistent. "The scary man was big, Duke, but not as big as Daddy," she began, settling cross-legged beside the German Shepherd. "He had a hurt leg that made him walk funny. He kept saying bad words and throwing things. He was looking for Daddy's treasure box." Duke's attention never wavered. His amber eyes remained fixed on Lily's face, his body language indicating the same intense focus he displayed when receiving critical commands during police operations. Occasionally, he would tilt his head slightly or shift his position, responses that seemed to encourage Lily to continue her narrative. He had scary eyes behind his mask, Duke, black and angry like storm clouds. "And his jacket was dark blue with a big rip right here," she said, pointing to her left shoulder. "He smelled bad, like cigarettes and that medicine stuff Mommy uses to clean cuts." Dr. Kim's pen moved rapidly across her notepad, documenting not only Lily's words, but also her body language, vocal patterns, and the remarkable way she seemed to gain confidence as she spoke. The child who had been mute for weeks was now providing detailed, forensically valuable information with startling clarity. Officer Reeves felt his pulse quicken as he recognized the significance of what he was hearing. Lily's descriptions matched perfectly with the limited evidence and witness accounts from the other break-ins. The limp, the blue jacket, even the chemical smell she mentioned, all consistent with the limping bandit profile that Detective Santos had been developing. "Tell me more about when he talked on his phone, Lily," Dr. Kim gently encouraged, breaking her usual rule about not directing traumatized children's narratives. But this situation was unprecedented, and the information flowing from Lily was too valuable to leave to chance. Lily nodded seriously, never breaking eye contact with Duke. He called someone named Tommy. He said Tommy told him about Daddy's safe. "But we don't have a safe, Duke. We keep our important papers in Mommy's recipe box." She paused, her small face scrunching with concentration. The man was mad because he couldn't find money. He said something about other houses on ... on Maple Street? With families that have more treasure. The room fell silent, except for the soft whir of Dr. Kim's recorder. Officer Reeves felt his training kick in as he processed the intelligence goldmine that was pouring from this 3-year-old witness. The mention of Maple Street was particularly significant. 2 of the recent break-ins had occurred in that area, and police had suspected the perpetrator had inside information about his target's financial situations. Duke's responses throughout Lily's account were subtle but unmistakable to his trained handler. The dog's breathing remained steady and calm, providing a sense of security that seemed to unlock increasingly detailed memories from Lily's traumatized mind. When she described particularly frightening moments, Duke would gently shift closer to her or rest his large head near her shoulder, providing comfort without disrupting her narrative flow. "He broke my piggy bank, Duke," Lily continued, her voice taking on a sad quality. "All my quarters and dollar bills scattered everywhere. But he only took some of them. He said even kids in this house were broke." She brightened slightly. "But I remembered his car, Duke. It had a broken light on the back, and it made loud noises like Grandpa's old truck." Elena Martinez watched from across the room in amazement and growing hope. For the first time in weeks, she was seeing glimpses of her real daughter, the curious, articulate child who had always noticed everything and remembered details with remarkable accuracy. The trauma had locked away that brilliant little mind, but Duke had somehow found the key. As the session continued, Dr. Kim began to understand the psychological mechanics of what was happening. Duke represented safety and protection to Lily, not just because of his size and training, but because of his non-judgmental presence and the way he received her traumatic memories without fear or emotional reaction. Unlike the adults in her life, who became visibly upset when she tried to discuss the break-in, Duke simply listened with calm acceptance. Dogs don't have the same facial expressions and emotional reactions that humans do, Dr. Kim would later explain in her report. For a traumatized child like Lily, Duke's steady, accepting presence creates a safe space where she can process and verbalize her memories without triggering additional anxiety about how her words might affect her listeners. Officer Reeves noticed another crucial element. Duke's professional training in detecting human stress and deception made him uniquely qualified to serve as Lily's confidant. The dog's ability to remain calm and focused, even when receiving disturbing information, provided exactly the kind of stable, non-reactive audience that Lily's traumatized psyche needed. As the formal session wound down, Lily showed no signs of the emotional exhaustion or regression that typically followed her interactions with adult authority figures. Instead, she seemed energized and relieved, as if finally sharing her burden had lifted a tremendous weight from her small shoulders. "Duke, will you help catch the scary man?" she asked seriously, stroking the dog's thick coat. "He's going to hurt other kids if someone doesn't stop him." Duke's tail wagged once, and Officer Reeves found himself answering for his partner. "That's exactly what we're going to do, Lily," You and Duke make a pretty amazing team. Dr. Kim gathered her notes with trembling hands, already understanding that she had just witnessed something that would change how traumatized child witnesses were handled forever. But first, this extraordinary breakthrough needed to reach Detective Santos and the legal system that would ultimately determine whether Lily's revelations could help bring a dangerous criminal to justice. The morning of November 8th dawned gray and cold over Dallas, matching the somber mood inside the specialized courtroom preparation facility that had been hastily converted from a conference room in the Children's Advocacy Center. Dr. Rachel Kim arrived at 7 a.m., her arms full of research materials, therapeutic toys, and detailed preparation plans for what would become the most unusual witness coaching session in American legal history. The room had been transformed into a replica courtroom, complete with a witness stand scaled down to accommodate a 3-year-old, judge's bench made from stacked boxes covered with black fabric, and even a makeshift jury box populated with stuffed animals. The attention to detail was crucial, every element designed to familiarize Lily with the intimidating formal environment she would soon face before a real judge and jury. Officer Jake Reeves entered with Duke at precisely 7:30 a.m., both displaying the professional composure that had made them one of Dallas PD's most respected K-9 teams. But even Duke's usually unflappable demeanor showed signs of the pressure surrounding this unprecedented case. His amber eyes swept the room with heightened alertness, as if he sensed the gravity of what lay ahead. "How's she been sleeping?" Dr. Kim asked Elena Martinez as the family arrived for their third preparation session. The dark circles under Elena's eyes told the story before she could answer. "She wakes up almost every hour, asking about Duke," Elena replied wearily. "She keeps practicing her important stories with Coco, telling her teddy bear all the details she wants to share with Duke in the big room with the serious people. It's heartbreaking and amazing at the same time." Miguel Martinez carried their daughter into the room, Lily's small arms wrapped tightly around his neck. She had grown more verbal with her parents over the past 2 weeks, though she still reserved her most detailed communications for Duke. The transformation was remarkable. The hollow-eyed, silent child was gradually being replaced by a version of her former animated self. "Duke!" Lily called out with genuine joy upon spotting the German shepherd. She wiggled out of her father's arms and ran across the room, her purple sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. Duke's tail wagged enthusiastically as she approached, but he maintained his professional sitting position until Officer Reeves gave the subtle hand signal that meant at ease. The preparation sessions had evolved into a carefully orchestrated dance between psychology, law enforcement procedure, and child development. Dr. Kim had consulted with experts from Harvard's child psychology program, Stanford's law school, and even animal behaviorists from UC Davis to develop protocols that had never before been attempted. "Lily, do you remember what we practiced yesterday?" Dr. Kim asked gently, settling onto the floor beside child and dog. "About the special room where you'll help Duke tell the important people your stories?" Lily nodded seriously, her small face scrunched in concentration. "The room with the tall chair for the boss person, and the box where nice people sit to listen. And I sit with Duke right here." She patted the miniature witness stand. "And tell him about the scary man so the boss person can make sure he doesn't hurt other kids." The simplicity of her understanding belied the constitutional complexity of what was about to unfold. Legal experts across the nation continued to debate the case in law journals, television appearances, and academic conferences. The American Bar Association had issued a special report on innovative approaches to child witness testimony, while civil liberties organizations prepared appeals regardless of Judge Williams's decision. Dr. Kim had documented every aspect of Lily's communication patterns with Duke, creating a comprehensive psychological profile that would serve as the foundation for the prosecution's expert testimony. Her findings were revolutionary. Lily's stress levels, measured through heart rate monitors and saliva cortisol tests, dropped to normal ranges only when communicating through Duke. Attempts to redirect her testimony toward human listeners consistently triggered trauma responses that made coherent communication impossible. The therapeutic relationship between Lily and Duke transcends typical human-animal interaction. Dr. Kim explained to Da Rodriguez during a strategy meeting. Duke's training in detecting human emotional states, combined with his non-judgmental presence, creates a unique psychological safe space. It's not that she thinks Duke understands her words. It's that his responses to her emotional state provide the security she needs to process traumatic memories. Officer Reeves had spent countless hours preparing Duke for the unusual courtroom environment. Traditional police K-9 training focused on drug detection, suspect apprehension, and crowd control. Nothing had prepared them for serving as an intermediary in judicial proceedings. Special sessions were conducted with court reporters, practicing their typing while Duke remained focused. Bailiffs moving around the room to simulate courtroom activity, and even recordings of judges' voices giving instructions. Duke's been trained to ignore distractions during critical operations, Officer Reeves explained to the legal team. But this situation requires him to maintain focus on Lily while surrounded by more people and activity than he's ever experienced. We've been gradually increasing the complexity of each practice session. The media attention surrounding the preparation sessions had reached fever pitch. Satellite trucks lined the streets outside the Children's Advocacy Center. Reporters from national networks vied for exclusive interviews, and legal commentators provided round-the-clock analysis of every development. The courthouse steps had become a daily stage for demonstrations both supporting and opposing Lily's unprecedented testimony method. Judge Patricia Williams found herself at the epicenter of the constitutional storm. Her chambers had become a research center where 3 law clerks worked in shifts, analyzing precedent cases from across the centuries of American jurisprudence. The closest historical parallel they could find was the 1895 case of Wheeler v. United States, which established that children as young as 5 could testify if they demonstrated understanding of truth versus falsehood. But nothing addressed communication through animal intermediaries. The foundational question Judge Williams confided to her chief law clerk during a late-night preparation session is whether we're dealing with testimony from Lily Martinez, or whether we're creating some new category of evidence that has never existed in American courts. The constitutional implications of our decision will ripple through the justice system for decades. Defense attorney Marcus Thompson had assembled his own team of experts, including child psychologists who questioned the reliability of Duke's role in Lily's communications. Dr. Stephen Walsh from Johns Hopkins University would testify that the dog's responses might actually be influencing or contaminating the child's statements, creating a form of unconscious coaching that violated every principle of witness reliability. Your Honor, we're not just talking about allowing unusual testimony, Thompson argued during a pre-trial motion hearing. We're discussing the complete abandonment of cross-examination rights that have protected defendants since the founding of our nation. How can Mr. Morales's attorney challenge testimony that flows through a dog who cannot be sworn in, cannot be questioned, and cannot be held accountable for perjury? The prosecution team, led by Assistant A. Jennifer Walsh, had prepared counter-arguments based on existing exceptions for child witnesses. Courts already allowed teddy bears, therapy dolls, and closed-circuit television to help traumatized children testify. The principle of accommodating vulnerable witnesses to ensure their participation in justice was well established. Duke represented simply an evolution of that accommodation. As the trial date approached, Lily's preparation sessions became increasingly sophisticated. Mock cross-examinations were conducted, with Dr. Kim gently asking challenging questions, while Lily communicated through Duke, the child's. Responses remained remarkably consistent, her details unwavering, even when questions were repeated or phrased differently. "Duke, tell the nice lady about the scary man's jacket again," Lily would say when asked about the intruder's clothing. Her descriptions never varied: dark blue with a tear on the left shoulder, smelling like cigarettes and rubbing alcohol, worn by a man who limped badly and spoke angrily into his phone about finding money. The final preparation session took place on November 15th, with all key participants present to ensure seamless coordination. Lily walked through the entire testimony process, from entering the courtroom holding Officer Reeves's hand, to settling beside Duke at the witness stand, to the moment when she would begin sharing her crucial memories with her canine confidant. "Are you ready to help Duke tell everyone about the scary man?" Dr. Kim asked as the session concluded. Lily looked up with the solemn seriousness that only 3-year-olds can master when discussing important matters. "Duke and I are ready. We're going to make sure the scary man can't hurt other kids anymore. That's what heroes do." As they prepared to leave, Duke nuzzled Lily's hand gently, his amber eyes conveying a sense of partnership and protection that transcended species barriers. November 16, 2024, would forever be marked in American legal history as the day a 3-year-old girl and a German Shepherd challenged the very foundations of courtroom procedure. By 7 a.m., the Dallas County Courthouse was surrounded by a sea of media vans, satellite trucks, and protesters holding signs, ranging from "Justice for Lily" to "Protect Constitutional Rights." The atmosphere crackled with the electric tension of a nation watching democracy wrestle with unprecedented questions about justice, trauma, and the voices of its youngest citizens. Inside courtroom 304, Judge Patricia Williams surveyed the packed gallery with a mixture of determination and trepidation. Every seat was filled with legal scholars, journalists, child advocates, and curious citizens who had won the lottery for public seating. Court sketch artists positioned themselves strategically, knowing their drawings would appear in law textbooks for generations. The weight of legal history pressed down on every person in the room. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Williams," announced Bailiff Robert Chun, his voice carrying across the silent courtroom. The collective rustle of 150 people standing created a sound like autumn leaves in the wind. Defense attorney Marcus Thompson sat beside his client, Vincent "Vinnie" Morales, who appeared smaller and more nervous than his imposing mugshot suggested. At 34, the career criminal had never imagined that a bungled burglary would thrust him into the center of a constitutional crisis. His usually defiant demeanor had been replaced by wide-eyed bewilderment as he processed the surreal nature of his situation. District Attorney Carmen Rodriguez adjusted her papers one final time, knowing that her opening statement would be quoted in law schools for decades. The prosecution table was organized with military precision evidence folders, legal precedents, and Dr. Kim's psychological evaluations arranged in perfect order for what would either be a triumph of innovative justice or a spectacular legal failure. The gallery held its collective breath as a side door opened and Officer Jake Reeves entered, leading Duke on a standard police leash. The German Shepherd's amber eyes swept the crowded courtroom with professional assessment, his training keeping him calm despite the overwhelming sensory input. Behind them, Dr. Rachel Kim walked slowly, her hand gently guiding 3-year-old Lily Martinez. Lily wore her favorite purple dress with butterfly buttons, chosen specifically because it made her feel brave. Her small hand clutched Coco, her teddy bear, while her eyes searched the intimidating formal space until they found Duke. The moment she spotted her canine confidant, her posture straightened and a small smile crossed her face. "Duke," she whispered excitedly, her voice carrying in the silent courtroom. Several jurors smiled involuntarily at the innocent joy in her tone, while others maintained stern expressions, clearly struggling with the unusual nature of what they were about to witness. Judge Williams leaned forward in her chair, her voice gentle but formal. "Good morning, Lily. Do you remember what we discussed about this special room?" Lily nodded solemnly, her 3-year-old seriousness touching even the most skeptical observers. "This is where I help Duke tell the important people about the scary man so he can't hurt other kids." The judge's eyes met those of the court reporter, Sarah Mitchell, who had been specially trained to transcribe not just Lily's words, but also her physical interactions with Duke. "Mrs. Mitchell, please note that the witness Lily Martinez has entered the courtroom accompanied by therapy dog Duke and is demonstrating clear understanding of her purpose here today." Officer Reeves guided Duke to a specially constructed platform beside the witness stand, positioned so that Lily could sit comfortably at the dog's eye level. The German Shepherd settled into his professional sitting position, but his tail wagged once as Lily approached, a subtle response that somehow conveyed both welcome and readiness. "Lily," Judge Williams continued, "I want you to sit right here next to Duke, and whenever you're ready, you can tell him your important story. Dr. Kim will help make sure we understand everything you're sharing with Duke." The courtroom fell into absolute silence as Lily arranged herself cross-legged on the carpeted platform, positioning Coco in her lap while placing her other hand on Duke's thick coat. The image was simultaneously heartwarming and surreal, a tiny figure in purple facing down the machinery of justice, with only a stuffed bear and a police dog as her allies. "Duke," Lily began, her clear 3-year-old voice carrying perfectly through the state-of-the-art sound system. "Remember the story about the scary man who came to my house? I need to tell the nice people so they can keep other kids safe." Duke's response was immediate and unmistakable. His amber eyes fixed on her face with laser focus, his ears pricked forward in the alert posture that Officer Reeves recognized from active duty situations. The dog's entire body language conveyed intense attention and readiness to receive important information. "The scary man walked funny, Duke, like his leg was really hurt. He went thump drag across our kitchen floor." Lily demonstrated the limping motion with her small body, unconsciously mimicking the exact gait that multiple witnesses had reported. "He wore a dark blue jacket with a big rip right here." She pointed to her left shoulder. "And it smelled bad, like Daddy's cigarettes and the medicine Mommy uses on cuts." The courtroom remained frozen as Lily's testimony unfolded. Dr. Kim sat nearby, occasionally nodding encouragement, but never interrupting the natural flow of communication between child and dog. Duke's responses were subtle but consistent, slight tilts of his head, shifts in position, and steady eye contact that seemed to encourage Lily to continue sharing her memories. "He was looking for Daddy's treasure box, Duke, but we don't have one. He threw my toys everywhere and broke my piggy bank. All my quarters rolled under the bed where I was hiding." Lily's voice took on a sad quality as she described the destruction of her safe space. "I could see his scary eyes through his mask. They were angry and mean, like storm clouds." Several jurors wiped their eyes discreetly as the 3-year-old continued her account, with remarkable clarity and consistency. Defense Attorney Thompson started to rise several times as if to object, and settled back in his chair, recognizing that challenging a traumatized child in this moment would likely backfire spectacularly with the jury. "The most important part, Duke," Lily continued, leaning closer to the German Shepherd, "is when he talked to his friend on the phone. He called someone named Tommy and said Tommy told him about our safe. But the scary man was mad because we didn't have the money Tommy said we would have." Duke's tail wagged once, a response that seemed to encourage Lily to share more details. The significance of this information was not lost on Detective Santos, who sat in the gallery frantically taking notes. Tommy Vega had been identified as Vinny's accomplice, but they had lacked evidence of his role in providing target information. "The scary man said he was going to other houses on On Maple Street, I think? He said those families had more treasure than us. Lily's small brow furrowed with concentration as she tried to remember the exact words. And Duke, his car made loud noises like Grandpa's old truck, and it had a broken light on the back. The courtroom remained spellbound as Lily continued her testimony for 27 minutes, providing details that corroborated every piece of physical evidence in the case. She described Vinny's distinctive scar, his chemical smell, his phone conversation about future targets, and even his frustration at finding less money than expected. Throughout her entire account, Duke never moved from his attentive position. His professional training in detecting human stress and emotional states seemed to create an invisible bubble of safety around Lily, allowing her to process and verbalize traumatic memories that had been locked away for weeks. As Lily's testimony concluded, she looked directly at Duke with the solemn seriousness that only children can muster when discussing matters of life and death. Duke, did I tell them everything important? Did I help catch the scary man so he can't hurt other kids? Duke's tail wagged enthusiastically, and for the first time during the testimony, he broke his professional posture to gently nuzzle Lily's cheek. The gesture brought tears to eyes throughout the courtroom, including several jurors who had initially been skeptical of the unusual proceedings. Judge Williams cleared her throat, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you, Lily. You and Duke did something very important and very brave today. Defense Attorney Thompson rose slowly, his face pale as he processed the devastating impact of the child's testimony. He looked at Lily's innocent face beside the massive German shepherd, then at his client, who had visibly slumped in recognition of his fate, and finally at the jury, whose expressions ranged from compassionate to grimly determined. Your Honor, Thompson said quietly, the defense has no questions for this witness. The courtroom erupted in whispers and movement as the historic testimony concluded. Legal scholars frantically scribbled notes about precedent and procedure, while journalists rushed to file reports about the extraordinary scene they had just witnessed. But in the center of it all, a 3-year-old girl sat peacefully beside a German shepherd, having just changed the course of American jurisprudence with the simple power of her truth, spoken through an unlikely but perfect intermediary. The silence in courtroom 304 stretched for what felt like an eternity after defense Attorney Marcus Thompson's stunning declaration that he would not cross-examine Lily. Judge Patricia Williams studied the faces of the 12 jurors, reading expressions that ranged from tears to grim determination to protective anger toward the defendant. The weight of constitutional history hung in the air like morning fog, thick with the knowledge that everything happening in this moment would reshape American justice forever. Vincent "Vinny" Morales slumped further in his chair, his usual criminal bravado completely shattered by the devastating precision of a 3-year-old's testimony. His court-appointed attorney leaned close to whisper urgently in his ear, but Vinny's attention remained fixed on the small figure in purple who had just dismantled his life with the simple power of truth spoken through a German shepherd. Your Honor, Thompson said, his voice barely above a whisper, my client would like to address the court. The gallery erupted in surprised murmurs. Judge Williams gavelled for order as legal reporters frantically scribbled notes, recognizing they were witnessing something unprecedented within an already historic proceeding. District Attorney Rodriguez exchanged glances with her team, unsure whether this development was a trap or an admission of defeat. Vinny stood slowly, his pronounced limp more evident than ever as he faced Judge Williams. At 34, the career criminal looked decades older, his face etched with the realization that his predatory behavior had been exposed by the most innocent of witnesses. When he spoke, his voice cracked with emotion that surprised everyone in the courtroom. Your Honor, I need to say something about that little girl. He glanced toward Lily, who sat peacefully beside Duke, stroking the German shepherd's coat while humming quietly to herself. "I've been stealing and hurting people for 15 years, always telling myself they were just things, just money, just property." But listening to her ... His voice broke completely as the weight of his actions crashed down on him. She was just a baby, hiding under her bed, terrified because of what I did to her safe place. And she remembered every detail, every word I said, every terrible thing I put her family through. I can't make her go through defending her truth again." The courtroom remained stunned as Vinny continued, tears streaming down his weathered face. "I did everything that little girl told that dog I did. Every house I broke into, every family I terrorized, every night I stole someone's sense of safety. Tommy Vega gave me information about which families had money, and I used it to hurt innocent people. I'm guilty of everything." Judge Williams had presided over thousands of cases in her 30-year career, but she had never witnessed such a complete and emotional confession triggered by a child's testimony. The defendant was essentially pleading guilty in open court, eliminating the need for a lengthy trial while validating the unprecedented legal procedure they had just pioneered. "Mr. Morales," Judge Williams said carefully, "are you saying you wish to change your plea to guilty on all charges?" "Yes, Your Honor. That brave little girl and her dog. They deserve better than having to relive what I put them through, just so I can keep lying about what everyone already knows I did." The jury foreman, a 45-year-old school principal named Robert Martinez, later described the moment to reporters. "We were prepared to deliberate for hours about the constitutional issues and the unusual testimony method. But when that man stood up and confessed, because he couldn't bear to put that child through any more trauma, it became clear that justice had already been served in the most profound way possible." Within 30 minutes of Vinny's confession, Judge Williams had accepted his guilty plea to 7 counts of burglary, aggravated assault, and conspiracy. But the real shock came during her formal statement for the court record. "The court finds that the testimony method demonstrated here today represents a valid and necessary accommodation for traumatized child witnesses," Judge Williams declared, her words being transcribed by court reporters and broadcast live to millions of viewers. "The evidence shows that Lily Martinez provided consistent, detailed, and accurate testimony through her communication with police service dog, Duke. This method enabled a severely traumatized child to participate in the justice process in a way that promoted both her healing and the pursuit of truth." The legal precedent was set with those words. Within hours, Judge Williams's ruling was being analyzed by constitutional scholars, downloaded by law schools, and referenced by child advocacy groups nationwide. The Martinez Standard, as it would come to be known, established the legal framework for animal-assisted testimony in cases involving traumatized children. 3 months after the trial, the transformation in Lily Martinez was nothing short of miraculous. The hollow-eyed, silent child who had hidden under her bed in terror had bloomed into a confident, talkative preschooler who filled her family's home with laughter and endless questions about everything she encountered. Her weekly visits to see Duke at the police station had become a highlight for both child and dog, their bond growing stronger with each meeting. "She still has nightmares occasionally," Elena Martinez explained to Dr. Kim during a follow-up session. "But when she wakes up scared, she talks about how Duke and Officer Jake are keeping all the families safe. She's not carrying that fear alone anymore." The ripple effects of Lily's courage spread far beyond Dallas. Police departments in 12 states established canine therapy programs specifically designed to help traumatized child witnesses. The FBI created a specialized unit for animal-assisted victim services, while the Justice Department allocated $2.3 million in federal funding for training programs. Dr. Rachel Kim found herself at the forefront of a revolutionary approach to child psychology. Her research on Lily's case was published in the American Journal of Child Psychology and became required reading in graduate programs across the country. What we discovered, she explained to a packed auditorium at the American Psychological Association's annual conference, is that some traumatized children need non-traditional communication pathways to access their memories safely. Duke didn't just provide comfort, he provided the psychological infrastructure that allowed Lily's mind to process and verbalize experiences that would otherwise remain locked away. Officer Jake Reeves and Duke were honored by police departments nationwide, receiving the International Association of Chiefs of Police Medal of Valor for their groundbreaking work. But the real reward came in the form of dozens of requests from other departments wanting to learn their techniques. Within a year, Officer Reeves was conducting training seminars across the country, teaching other K-9 teams how to work with traumatized children. Duke taught us that communication isn't always about words. Officer Reeves explained to a CNN reporter during the one-year anniversary of the trial. Sometimes it's about creating a safe space where truth can emerge naturally. He showed us that healing and justice can happen simultaneously when we're willing to adapt our methods to meet people where they are. The most remarkable development came exactly 1 year after Lily's testimony, when the Lily Martinez Child Witness Protection Act was signed into federal law. The legislation established national standards for accommodating traumatized child witnesses, including provisions for therapy animals, specialized courtroom procedures, and mandatory training for judges and attorneys handling cases involving young victims. On a warm October morning, almost exactly 2 years after the break-in that had shattered her world, Lily Martinez stood on the steps of the Dallas County Courthouse, surrounded by reporters, advocates, and legal officials. At 5 years old, she had grown into a confident, articulate kindergartner who spoke passionately about helping other scared children find their voices. Duke taught me that even when bad things happen, there are always good people who will listen and help, she told the assembled crowd, her small hand resting on the German Shepherd's head. Now other kids who are scared can have their own special dog friends to help them tell their important stories. The transformation was complete, but the legacy was just beginning. Across America, courtrooms were adapting to serve their most vulnerable witnesses. Police departments were training therapy dogs, and traumatized children were finding their voices through the most unlikely of partnerships. Vincent Morales was serving a 25-year sentence, but more importantly, his confession had prevented countless other families from experiencing the terror that the Martinez family had endured. Tommy Vega, his accomplice, was also behind bars, their criminal network dismantled by the brave testimony of a 3-year-old girl who had refused to let fear silence her truth. In the end, Lily's courage had not only brought justice for her own family, but had fundamentally changed how America protects and empowers its youngest witnesses. The little girl who once hid under her bed in terror had emerged as a catalyst for constitutional evolution, proving that sometimes the most profound changes in society come from the smallest, bravest voices speaking truth through the most unexpected channels.